Good evening and welcome to Athens City Council. It's Monday, April 18th, 2016, and we are in regular session tonight. Our first order of business is to establish a quorum, and all council members are present this evening. The next item of business is disposition of minutes. We have from our regular session held April 4th, 2016. Do I have a motion for approval of these minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for disposition of the minutes. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. The motion carries and the minutes are approved. We'll now move on to communications. So we'll hear if we have reports or communications from our council members first, and then we'll move to the law director and the mayor. Council members?
I would like to report on a couple things.
Okay.
International Street Fair, I believe, after receiving an email from the organizer today, was a success. The move up the street seemed to be welcomed, and people enjoyed where the stage was set up there at Union with the backdrop of all the flags and all of that. So that does seem to have been a successful event this weekend. The other thing is I wanted to thank everyone who came out for Beautification Day. I know several of us on council were involved in different teams. President Nisley and I worked on the graffiti abatement team tag, and I know that Jennifer Cochran, I'm not sure if anybody else was involved, on Beautification Day, and that was a very successful event in the community, very helpful. Oh, and the mayor was involved with landscaping activities here at City Hall. So we really, I know that President Nisley and I were involved at the very beginning. I don't know, what year was this? The 11th year? Does anybody know? It's been going on for quite a while now, organized by the university students. So thank you for that.
Okay. Other council members? Yes. Councilmember McGee.
Thank you, Council President. I'd like to point out that I've received approximately 50 or more emails from various students and citizens concerned who would like to have a policy that would allow the rental of rooms, particularly through the Airbnb system. So I do want to emphasize that people are watching us and they are concerned and would like to see something be presented before council. The other thing I'd like to mention is that I've had two individuals point out to me that the trash cans in front of the lower part of Baker Center have lids on them that can very easily fit our trash cans on Court Street, and I know we had a presentation for some sort of compacting solar trash things that would probably cost quite a bit, but I just wanted to emphasize there are these lids out there that would do the job. So, and two people did show them to me, and they actually showed me the photos.
I just have a comment on that. Our trash receptacles did have lids at one time, and they were taken off because of the contract, I believe, with the recycling and trash contract, because it was so difficult for the solid waste employees in emptying those containers.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Any, yes, Councilmember Butler.
Thank you. Just brief communications similar to Councilmember McGee. I too received many emails in support of discussing Airbnb or in support of looking further into that. I think I noticed some of them were from local people and some were also from people outside of our city. And regarding, I also want to add regarding the Beautification Day, I'm apologetic I was not able to participate. I was out of town coaching, but as soon as I arrived into town, the first thing I went to go look at was the new mural at Arts West, which I think is delightful and turned out really well. The other communications that I was in receipt of is a email from the executive director, Bruce Underwood, from Athens Hocking Recycling Center, who was acknowledging support for the 65-gallon containers, noting that the carts have been well received by a vast majority of the customers that they've been working with. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other communications from other council members? If not, Law Director Eliason, no report. Mayor Patterson, then, your report for this evening?
A couple things. First, I received an email, I believe, Council, you received this as well, from the individual who was pretty much orchestrating the International Street Fair and kind of asking for input on how it went. I know that Police Chief Powers stated that he felt that it went well where the stage was. I was up there. I think it worked rather well for a very large crowd of people, so kind of reshifting things around with where the street fair was through my lens and through others, I think worked rather well, and I think was a big success. So I just wanted to share that. The other is much more important, and that is that I've asked Police Chief Tom Pyle to come here today to speak to council briefly, but more importantly to announce the 2015 Officer of the Year, which is quite an honor for the city, I should state. And also worth noting, as will come out, the officer that's being awarded is also one of our mounted officers, which has always kind of been such a great asset in the city in terms of crowd calming, as well as public relations, for people to be able to come up and pet the horses and get to meet our mounted officers. Having an officer and a mount, I think, is a big coup for a city our size, and having, again, dedicated police officers. So that said, I'm going to turn it over to Chief Pyle.
Thank you very much, Mayor, for the invitation. Madam President, council members, thank you for allowing me to speak on behalf of Officer Flick. Each winter, through peer vote, an Athens officer is awarded the coveted Officer of the Year award. This annual recognition is given to the officer who best exemplifies the department values of honesty, integrity, respect, dedication, courage, and safety, and who best represents our department mission to protect the public trust by maintaining order through objective law enforcement while escorting victims through the criminal justice system. Additionally, it is the mission of each Athens police officer to courteously assist the public and to demonstrate dedication and respect to their community and to their fellow employees, pride in their profession and in their work, self-initiative and self-control, a willingness and desire to give every effort for our citizens, an intimate knowledge of their community, and lastly, to demonstrate leadership and to recognize that it is a privilege to serve in our profession. For the year 2015, Officer Dusty Flick was chosen among his peers as our Officer of the Year. Officer Flick is continually one of the top performers in our department. He is a reliable officer who is determined to do all he can to provide for our community. He is, as Mayor Patterson said, a member of our highly touted mounted unit. And as a side note, he and Officer Neil Dickin are volunteering their time to take their mounts to Columbus to honor fallen Officer Stephen Smith from Columbus Police Department tomorrow. In 2015, Officer Flick was among several officers who received awards for their part in solving a years-old burglary case for North Congress Street, where one of the victims was shot in the leg. He was also among several officers who received awards for apprehending a robbery suspect minutes after the suspect had robbed a local barber shop in the uptown area. Also in 2015 and early 2016, Officer Flick received not one, but 2 life-saving awards, both for performing CPR on hurt persons who were experiencing severe medical crisis. The last incident, he was actually able to speak with the victim at the emergency room less than an hour later to talk about the victim's prognosis for recovery. Officer Flick is the embodiment of all that is good in our profession, and I thank you for allowing me to introduce him to you as our 2015 Officer of the Year.
Officer Flick, if you want to say a few words, if not, that's fine. Certainly, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of your accomplishments. I'm proud of our whole mounted unit as well as all of Athens Police Department. So, job well done. Well-deserved award.
First off, I'd like to thank everybody. It's a team effort in our department. I'm just little spoke in that wheel. And, there was other individuals that were nominated. They deserve just as much as I do. I think we all strive to help do a better job in community policing here in our city. Also, with that mounted unit, we do make a big impact on how our department is perceived. People will come up to us when we're on a horse, but if we were just walking the beat, it's very few and far between the conversations that we have. So, it's a great asset to our department. And, look forward to many more years of service to the city of Athens. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here, and thanks for all you do, day in and day out, year in and year out. It means a lot to all of us. So, thanks from all of us council members. All right. We will now move on to ordinances for third
I'm
reading.
sorry, President.
Yes, Councilmember Butler.
Sure. I didn't know if the mayor had any other reports or communications. I was asking perhaps for an update on a couple things. I spoke briefly with the City Service Safety Director, and I think she mentioned that and I don't know if you wanted to address those now or later, but perhaps an update on our pool, knowing that community members are curious about whether or not we're going to have a summer pool and whatnot. So if you have a moment, thank you.
Sure, happily. I distributed to council an image, one of several that I received Sunday from our Director of Arts, Parks, and Recreation.
Down there.
The pool patch by Capital Roofing was a success in the large pool. What they ended up doing was cutting away about 3 feet, 36 inches of floor liner, as well as up the entire wall from side to side and the shallow end. So that repair was successful. Now the next phase is to completely drain the pool and then fill it with chlorinated water, which is normal in our city pool by code, to make sure that the pool, the liner, everything holds. So that's update number one. Update number two, the company attempted to repair the partial liner or part of the liner for the baby pool. The baby pool's liner apparently has worn so thin that the patching was literally just kind of dissolving what liner was there. The liner's still there, so it's not gone, but the test patch doesn't look like there's enough integrity with the old liner that's there for this company to resolve that. So what we're going to do is look to see how much water is leaking from the baby pool. It may be negligible at this point, so therefore the baby pool, if it is, if the leakage is minimal, then we'll go ahead and press on with the baby pool this summer. So that's pretty much the update on the pool status. I'm hopeful. Like I said, it looks like this patch is holding. But as you know, we still have 40-year-old pumps inside running the pool. So there's other things, but I'm hopeful that it looks like the liner is going to work. That's huge in terms of keeping the pool held together with baling wire and 8-penny nails. Probably wouldn't want to use those in the liner. But anyway, for one more summer, we'll see how that goes moving forward.
Thank you. And a colleague of mine on council pointed out that we are advertising for position of safety personnel for the pool in the form of lifeguards. So
we are. Is that a shameless plug? We are looking for lifeguards, certified lifeguards for the pool. So the plan is we're moving forward.
I just wondered about the pool. The RFQ process closed last Monday. Kind of wondering how many companies, just wondering where that process is.
9.
Oh.
9 companies.
Wow.
Of those 9 companies that submitted RFQs, 2 were completely in-house companies. In other words, they would do the design and build all the elements, structural, the pool. mechanicals, landscaping, environmental. The remaining 7 would subcontract out to other pool builders for those different elements, someone who specializes in the aquatic, someone who specializes in mechanicals. And so that's what we're looking at. We've got 9, which is great. And it gives us a lot to sit and plow through. We're still in the stages of going through each one of these, and in particular the companies that would subcontract out, to see, who their subcontractors are, because we're just looking at the bid, not the bid, the RFQ that's come forward with, essentially one general contractor overseeing. What's important is to look at those, in particular the subcontractors. But like I said, there are 2 that they do the whole thing from beginning to end without subcontracting. It's all in-house.
Thank you.
That's where we're at.
Are those the updates you needed?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Now we'll move on to third ordinances for third reading. The first one is 1316, an ordinance authorizing disposal and replacement of a salt truck with snowplow in the Public Works Department. This is introduced by Councilmember Pappy.
Thank you, President Isley. I move to adopt 1316.
Second.
And just for an update for folks, this is we are authorizing to expend up to $145,000 from Street Fund 220 TC 500 for the purpose of this 2-ton salt truck with a snowplow.
Okay. We have a motion and a second for approval of this ordinance. Are there any additional comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. The motion carries and the ordinance is approved. Ordinance 3916 is an ordinance authorizing disposal of 2 sewer trucks in the Public Works Department and authorizing the Service Safety Director to replace the 2 vehicles. And this is introduced by Councilmember Pappy.
Thank you. I move to adopt 3916.
Second.
And again, for to remind everyone, we're looking at expending $53,000 from the sewer maintenance fund for this for the truck replacements.
Okay. We have a motion and a second for approval of ordinance 3916. Any additional comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. The motion carries and the ordinance is approved. Ordinance 4316 is an ordinance authorizing the rapid water line replacement. This is project number 303, introduced by Councilmember Butler.
Thank you, President Isley. I would like to make a motion to adopt ordinance 4316.
Second.
We talked about this. It's been read twice. This particular ordinance would authorize the Service Safety Director to advertise and accept bids and expend up to $200,000 from the water fund to replace these lines. Specifically, they're on the streets of Avon and Grand Park. Thank you.
We have a motion and a second for approval of 4316. Any additional comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. The motion carries and the ordinance is adopted. Ordinance 4416 is an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a partnership agreement with the Athens County Commissioners as applicant and grantee, if funded, for submission of an application to the Office of Development, Ohio Development Services Agency, for the 2016-18 Community Housing Impact and Preservation Program, known as the CHIP program. And this is introduced by Councilmember Butler.
Thank you again, President Isley. I'd like to make a motion to adopt ordinance 4416.
Second.
Thank you. If you recall, we had a presentation from Mr. Glenn Crippen, who is the Community Development Coordinator from HABCAP, and he spoke at length about the process and what they offer. President Isley was reminding me as well, too, that in the past, this has been assisting such projects as rental rehabilitation and repair, as well as aiding and assisting low to moderate income housing. and this has been pointed in the direction of new construction as well as rental rehab and private rehab. I think if you recall, I think he mentioned as well, too, that they've coordinated efforts with Habitat for Humanity. So I think this is, again, moving in the right direction in our community. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for approval of Ordinance 4416. Any additional comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. The motion carries and the ordinance is approved. We now have ordinances for second reading, and as I understand one of these, the first one coming up, will need a suspension tonight, and we'll have an explanation of that shortly. So Ordinance 4616 is an ordinance amending the 2016 Appropriation Ordinance 12015 and Ordinance 8315, authorizing right-of-way acquisition, construction, and construction engineering of a bike path from Armitage to Columbus Road. This is Project 270, and declaring an emergency. This is introduced by Councilmember Pappy.
Thank you. I move to suspend 4616.
Second.
The rationale for the suspension has to do with we need to spend down the funds in a timely manner due to them being, I think it's July 1st, maybe sooner.
I think it's even
It's
sooner.
June 30th
June
for the Clean
30th.
Ohio Fund.
Okay, so close enough. So that's the reason for the suspension tonight.
We have a motion and a second for suspending the rules. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. The rules have been suspended, Councilmember Pappy.
Thank you. I move to adopt 4616.
Second.
This is a part of the Columbus Road Bike Spur construction, and if you'll look in the ordinance, you'll see that there is some movement of the funds. It's all the same funds. It just has to do with what funds they're coming out of. So it's the original amount of money. We're just looking to see which line item out of the budget they're coming out of and going into.
We have a motion and a second for approval of Ordinance 4616. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. The motion carries and the ordinance is approved. Ordinance 4716 is an ordinance closing a portion of Court Street between Washington and Carpenter on Saturday, July 23rd, 2016, from 8 a.m. to midnight for Ohio Brew Week, and this is introduced by Councilmember Pappy. Ordinance 4816 is an ordinance suspending the enforcement of Athens City Code, Section 13.04.10, unnecessary noise in the downtown area on July 23rd, 2016 for Ohio Brew Week, introduced by Councilmember Pappy. Ordinance 4916 is an ordinance suspending the enforcement of Athens City Code, Chapter 11.04, vending, peddling, and soliciting, to allow vending in a designated area on Saturday, July 23rd, 2016, during the Ohio Brew Week event, introduced by Councilmember Pappy. Ordinance 5016 is an ordinance closing a portion of Union High and Washington Streets on Saturday, August 13th, 2016, for the King Midget High Street Challenge, and this is introduced by Councilmember Pappy. Ordinance 5116 is an ordinance authorizing the Service Safety Director to advertise and accept bids where necessary and enter into a contract for uniform recycling carts. And this is introduced by Councilmember Butler. Yes, Councilmember Butler.
Thank you, President Esley. At the beginning of the meeting, I acknowledged that we had received one letter of support, and I'm seeing a second letter here. So the first letter I mentioned was from Executive Director Bruce Underwood from the Athens Hocking Recycling Center, who has a number of bullet points addressing why he supports the purchase of the 65-gallon recycling containers, uniformity, increased visibility, less debris because of the attached lids, the ease of using the containers because they have a bar on them to lift. We're also in receipt of a letter from chair of the Athens City Environment and Sustainability Commission, Cliff Hamilton, and they voted unanimously, I believe 5-0, if I'm seeing this correctly, again supporting the movement in this direction of the 65-gallon containers. Thank you.
And do we have anybody who wanted to make any additional comments? Okay. You could do that. We'll have the third and final reading next session, but you could make a comment tonight.
Thank you.
Yes, please.
thank
And
you.
if you could give us your name and address and identify who you are representing.
Yeah, my name is Andrea Rainey. I live at 54 Morris Avenue in Athens. And I'm here to make a statement on behalf of Rural Action. I'm the Zero Waste Program Manager at Rural Action. And I've been working closely with Ron Lucas and folks from the Recycling Partnership, who is the organization providing match funding for the carts. And we've been working closely together on this project to try to get all the residents of Athens some of these carts. And I guess I'd like to start off by just saying, we think this has a lot of value and potential, especially because the city of Athens had the very first curbside recycling program in the state of Ohio back in the 80s. And so we would really like to see this very rich legacy of waste reduction and recycling continue in the city in this innovative way. And the first way that I'd like to talk about that would improve our recycling program here is that the 64-gallon carts particularly, they increase participation. So these carts have been shown to increase the amount of recyclables up to 400 to 500 pounds per year per household. Because these carts make it so much easier for folks to participate, so much more convenient, people are going to start recycling even more than they are now that we've switched to single stream. So you will see an increase in the Athens Hocking Recycling Center. We heard from Bruce. They're able to handle that influx of material. And again, as far as the 64-gallon carts go, your recycling program can only grow as much as your cart is big. So if you are going with a smaller cart, you can only expect folks to recycle the amount that they can fit in that cart. But by choosing to go with a larger cart, the 64 or 65-gallon cart, people will have the opportunity to recycle more. And we have so many champion recyclers in the city of Athens, so I think that's great. One example is that the city of Columbus actually, they started out with 64-gallon carts, and now their standard issue cart is a 96-gallon cart because they realize that folks love these carts so much that they want to switch to a larger size because people are just recycling more and they need more capacity. So now they have to opt out and get a 64-gallon cart because they just love the carts so much. So again, going with a smaller size cart maybe wouldn't be as advantageous in the long run. And the second point I'd like to make, maybe the most important point, is that it saves money. These carts in the long run will save the city money. We've already seen a reduction in landfill tipping fees because of the switch to single stream, and we should anticipate a greater reduction in tipping fees because people are recycling more and more is being diverted from the landfill. So that will hopefully continue to save the city money.
That's nice.
Also, another large advantage to this is that workers' compensation claims go down drastically when we've seen these CART programs implemented in communities across the country. Minneapolis, for example, within their first year of rollout with their carts, saw a $250,000 reduction in workers' compensation claims. So that's pretty sizable. Just on the whole, we at Rural Action think that this is a really great step for the city to take. There are concerns. Some folks who may be less physically capable are concerned about rolling a larger cart. And I would say, on the whole, what I've heard, particularly from the Recycling Partnership, who's done this across the country, the vast majority of people think that these carts are easier and more convenient than lugging, 5 different bins out to the curb if you have a lot of recyclables. And for those folks who do have mobility issues, there will be an opt-out option. So they can, if preferable, they can still keep a bin for those folks who really do need that.
And if there, naturally with any large program like this, other logistical challenges will arise. I will say that Rural Action and the Recycling Partnership were really dedicated to making this process work, and we really see, again, so much value in this, so we want to make this work. And I guess just personally, I'm originally from Toledo, up north, and we have the larger 96-gallon carts. And my family, my parents, maybe wouldn't be avid recyclers otherwise. They really love their carts. It's very convenient for them, especially to fit bulkier items, bigger pieces of cardboard, milk jugs, things like that take up a lot of space. It's really convenient for them. So they love having a cart, and I love having carts too. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. And we'll, as I said, have a final reading then for this in 2 weeks. We'll now move on to ordinances for first reading, and Ordinance 5216 is an ordinance amending Ordinance 12615, authorizing installation of an ADA chairlift in the city building. This is project number 299, and declaring an emergency. And this is introduced by Council Member Butler.
Thank you, President Isley. Just quite simply, this allows an extra $10,000 to be appropriated for this project. And I applaud the mayor's efforts again to be mindful of making a building that's disability-friendly and accessible. And this is working towards the ADA chairlift, allowing the City Service Safety Director to authorize up to $60,000 from the general fund. Thank you.
Okay, and I did receive word from the administration that we will need to suspend on this tonight because I believe the bid came in.
Came in under 10%, and the contractor is ready to start work on getting this ADA lift in the city building.
Super. Having heard the most recent news here, I would like to make a motion to suspend the rules for Ordinance 5216.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, and with the reasons for suspending provided by the mayor. And so all those in favor of suspending the rules indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. The rules have been suspended. Councilmember Butler.
Thank you again. I would now like to make a motion to adopt Ordinance 5216
Second.
for above said reasons.
Okay, and this will approve authorized installation and up to $60,000 in expenses for the installation of this. So we have a motion and a second for approval of Ordinance 5216. Any additional comments? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. The motion carries and the ordinance is adopted. Ordinance 5316 is an ordinance authorizing disposal and replacement of a tractor mower in the Department of Arts, Parks, and Recreation, and this is introduced by Councilmember Butler.
Thank you, President Isley. We discussed this briefly in committee. I believe the administration is looking at used, pre-owned devices, which will save us some money, and we're looking at an amount of about $25,000 from the Recreation Fund. Does that sound accurate?
It does. I mean, it's a gently used 2011 Toro riding lawnmower.
Thank you. I was trying to find the year on it, but I think you had supplied us that previously. Thank you. Yes.
One question. The old mower, is it going to be repurposed, or is it just simply going to be disposed of?
I think it's going to be disposed of. It's 20 years old.
Right. I
It
saw
has
it.
not been gently used.
No.
It's time to retire a 20-year-old riding lawnmower.
Does somebody buy that for parts, or how does that? You trade it in? You trade it in, they take care of that at the...
Yeah,
Thank you.
All right. Ordinance 5416 is an ordinance authorizing the mayor to make application and enter into a project agreement with the Ohio Department of Natural Resources and declaring an emergency. Introduced by Councilmember Butler.
Thank you, President Isley. This authorizes the mayor to file application with the Ohio Department of Natural Resources, working towards the Ohio Nature Works program. And specifically, we're hoping to work towards creating a handicap-accessible trail at the new Dowler property that is a part of our larger, bigger park system. I don't have a whole lot more to say than that. We discussed it in committee. Mayor?
Just that this would be the first full-blown and well-thought-through nature trail that's ADA accessible in the city, and as I understand it, and I'm really hopeful that the one out at Stroud's Run goes through, but this would make the third in the state, third in the county. There is one up in the Wayne, but this would be the first one in the city of Athens, again, as a larger scale ADA accessible nature trail.
All right.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm sorry, Member Reisner and I were discussing the previous ordinance. That didn't need to be suspended or voted on this evening, is that correct?
The mower.
The mower?
No.
Okay, sure. My apologies.
All right. Ordinance 5516 is an ordinance authorizing disposal and replacement of a van for Athens County Municipal Court, and this is introduced by Councilmember Reisner.
Thank you, Madam President. This was discussed in committee. It's written up in our minutes. I was just looking at them. The judge of the municipal court has a new diversion program for first-time offenders, and one of the problems that they'll have is they'll have to be able to move the offenders around to different job sites for a community purpose. We currently have a 1995 Ford van that
Almost there.
yeah, is well, it's had better days. I don't think it needs to be repurposed either. So the court is requesting an appropriation and permission to spend the funds. So if you like, I will read the ordinance as read. Section 1, the Athens City Council hereby declares the following vehicle no longer needed for municipal court. Again, it's the 1995 Ford van. I won't get to the serial numbers. Section 2, the municipal court judge is hereby authorized to dispose of said vehicle by donation to other governmental agencies or nonprofits, 501c3 organizations, sealed bids, or salvage. Section 3, the 2016 appropriation ordinance 01/2015 is hereby amended by appropriating from the unappropriated balance a sum of $50,000 to Diversion Program Fund 232 TC 500 to replace said vehicle and increase the total appropriations by said amount. Section 4, the municipal court judge is further authorized to expend up to $50,000 from the Diversion Program Fund 232 TC 500 for said vehicle.
Okay.
In red.
Any other comments? Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
All right.
Just that this van needs to be retired. To quote my city engineer, it's being held together with bubble gum and rubber bands. So it's time. It's lived a full life. Mm-hmm. And
it and the mower can go off into the golden sunset.
The sunset.
into the heartland.
All right. Announcements and other business. We have received the auditor's March 2016 financial reports, so I'd entertain a motion to approve those or accept those.
So moved. Second.
Okay. A motion and a second for acceptance of these reports. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. The motion carries. You know,
President Naisley?
yes,
Thank you. I was just going to acknowledge that I do need to meet for committee next week.
thank you. That's my next.
Well, I figured that might be the next question. The City Service Safety Director has advised me that there's some issues pending that she would like us to discuss.
Finance and personnel on a Wednesday at noon.
Okay. So that's this coming Wednesday.
Next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday.
A week from Wednesday. Okay. Thank you.
And transportation for sure, specifically Boogie on the Bricks will be discussed, and the pedestrian, we'll continue the pedestrian conversation on Union Street. And Specifically, I just want to reference this. I know there was a meeting of the Athens Uptown Business Association last Wednesday. Both these items were discussed at that meeting. I don't believe anybody from council was there. I know some administration was there. I want to put a plea out there to uptown businesses who feel like they would like to get their voices out there. These are two topics of great interest to them, street closure and as to where it should be located on Court Street, and then a more permanent type of structure to occur on an uptown business street. So I would hope that we would either hear via email or people would be able to come next week at 7 p.m. to discuss their thoughts and feelings, because none of us were available at that Uptown Business Association meeting, so we may not have all the information.
Are there other announcements?
There are a couple planning development items that I've got. So.
And a planning and development committee.
Thank you.
And then the other thing is that this week is the spring cleanup week. And so persons can set multiple bags out at the curb. There was also a large item drop-off, I believe, over at the service garage on West State. And then there's a hazardous waste drop-off for Athens City community residents. You do need to show some ID that proves your address within the city limits, and you can drop items off there. So old paint, I think.
It's also township. Athens.
Is it township Athens also? Okay, thank you for clarifying that. So that hazardous waste is from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Athens Community Center. Any other announcements from council members? Okay. Or the mayor? Okay. We'll move on to an opportunity for citizens to speak on legislative items and city services not covered on the agenda. And each person has 3 minutes to speak. And if you would like to come up to speak on an agenda item not covered tonight.
I guess I'm just here more or less to give an update because I'm right across the streets from Memberfest. So the one thing I was extremely pleased about, but I'm not pleased that they closed the road because we're kind of stuck there and we can't get in and out of our houses. And the noise is loud and it's a lot of people and it's an inconvenience, but at least the emergency squads did not have to drive through a sea of drunk people. So that I greatly appreciate. So I greatly appreciate the sheriff for making sure that that didn't happen. So that's and the crowd wasn't nearly as rowdy. It wasn't nearly as chaotic. People came and went. The traffic was really bad. I noticed in the Athens News it said that, like Petrozzi said something that there weren't like a few minute delays in the traffic. No way. I watched, you could not see the end of the cars coming down Union Street and State Route 56 from about 3 o'clock to almost 7. So in a way that kind of maybe made it a little better because they weren't in there partying as long, and there were still people carrying coolers in because they were allowed to bring booze into the parking lot. So, when they say no bringing in booze, then maybe it should just be no bringing in booze. So, but it was a much better, a much safer event than it was last year, so I do appreciate that. Thank you.
Can I make a comment?
Well, we'll have opportunity for discussion, I'm sure, when we have some of the follow-up meetings, but thank you. Thanks.
Would you post that in the paper so that we'll know when you're discussing it?
If there is a meeting that's open, public, we will announce that. Any other comments from other citizens? Okay. If not, then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So
I
moved.
so moved. Second.
Okay, a motion and a second for adjourning our meeting tonight. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay. We stand adjourned at 7:46. Thank you very much.
I was going to say.